Stars with Linda Patten, and I have a very special guest on today who I'll tell you about in just a little minute. But you may remember that this program is really designed for reluctant leaders, people who really don't think that they are leaders yet, but they're sort of edging their way into leadership. In fact, what I bring to you are leaders in different aspects of leadership. We started looking at building relationships and really using leadership to be successful in your business. The fact that managing doesn't cut it any longer, and you really have to be that visionary, that big picture thinker, and that kind of thing in order for you to bring your team together and to see the success that you're looking for. If you're in a network marketing company, you may find yourself on the hamster wheel of recruitment. And what I try to bring to you are leaders who have stepped away from that and who are actually retaining members, whether they're members of a team, whether they're individuals who come into their business for short periods of time and then leave, or whatever it might be. And by retaining them and really aligning your vision with their vision, it's amazing how powerful and successful you and your teams can be. So today I have a very, very special guest, Vicki Dello Joio. And Vicki is probably the most energetic person that I know on the planet. And she is just this amazing power in both leadership, speaking, and some really fun stuff that she does physically as well, which she'll tell you just a little bit about. I met Vicki about a year ago, and I was so impressed with her on stage that I just had to have her here on our Leadership Stars program. So welcome, Vicki, to the December edition of Leadership Stars.
Well, thank you. I'm so thrilled. It looks like I need to turn the sound down. Is that good?
Are you good? Very good, yeah. Okay, so Vicki, I know you have this really, really rich bio, and I'd really love you to tell our audience just a little bit about you, sort of how you got to where you are today, and why you do what you do with your clients, speakers and workshop leaders and that kind of thing. So tell us all about that.
Well, I've been doing martial arts and theater both for a very long time. The theater stuff started when I was just a kid. I started performing in summer stock. I performed a lot then and trained as an actor as a young person, and then had my own theater company for years. So theater is one branch of it. And the other thing that I do is I teach martial arts. I teach something called Qigong, which is basically a Chinese martial art that helps you learn how to move energy so you can send it in the direction that you want. It's used primarily medically and as for healing, but it can also be used to really direct your intention and see things kind of happen in your life. The thing that really drives me around these are just modalities, of course, but the thing that really drives me about teaching people these different types of systems is because I have a passion to see things shift in my lifetime. I am a baby boomer. You can probably tell from the color of my hair.
Yeah.
That I think that when I think about my generation or our generation of women, particularly the things that we saw happen in our lives, starting from the Black liberation movement, gay liberation movement, women's liberation movement, anti-war movement, that there were so many big sea changes that happened when we were coming of age, right, or in our early 20s. I think that sensibility is in my core, and for me, it's in the core of so many women around my age. So I have a very strong drive to support women as they step out into leadership. This is something that I feel is absolutely vital. I want to see the planet change from competition to cooperation in my lifetime. I see more and more of those types of things coming through. At the same time, there's also, major disaster happening. As we are sort of looking at various types of issues that are happening around the globe, what I also am looking at is the ways in which people are starting to pitch forward into a different way. I think a lot of that actually started with some of what we saw happen back in the 60s, that period of time. So I know that we have a message as a generation. I believe that if we have a message, particularly for people who have businesses and they're really driven by their heart, that one of the things that really strikes me as important is that we learn how to do that well, that we learn how to deliver that message well, we learn how to create that change in our lives, in our businesses well.
Well, and wasn't it the Dalai Lama who said, and I'm going to misquote this entirely, but that it would be the Western woman who would change the future?
He did, and I hear that get quoted a lot. I'm always a little uncomfortable with it because I believe there's a lot of Eastern women that have a lot to offer, or women from other countries. So I always balk a little bit but at the same time, I think there's a privilege that we've grown up with that most people around the planet don't have, and so that allows us to have the time and space to have the type of consciousness that does help move things forward. I also believe that we have a lot to learn from other countries.
Oh, I so agree. So, Vicki, what you're seeing is women stepping into more of a global leadership position. So what do you think it takes for a woman to move into that global leadership?
I think it takes a bunch of different things. What comes to the top of my mind is willingness. Willingness to do what it takes, willingness to really let yourself be driven by your heart, willingness to trust that you, as a woman, have something to offer that's uniquely yours that nobody else can do, and to participate in that global conversation. I think that's the first thing, is to really just own it, to take it and to own it, because so many women have been trained to be in the support position. Certainly back in the 60s, a lot of us were the ones getting the coffee or running the printer or something like that. I think that, but we were still the sort of the brains behind a lot of that. So I just feel like taking on our leadership means, first of all, being willing, and second of all, taking a deep breath and trusting that we have what it takes to do what needs to be done.
And let me tie onto that, Vicki, because I think you're absolutely right. We've hidden behind the curtain for so long. We've been the woman behind the man kind of thing. And while every day we show leadership qualities, and we actually do step into leadership, but it's in our what appears to be our day-to-day life. And it's like, oh, no, I couldn't possibly lead a company. I couldn't be in global leadership, because we don't see ourselves in that aspect. We see it in homes, our families, our communities, that kind of thing. But when we talk about business, it's like we deny the fact that we could step into that global arena.
I think there's a kind of a limited interpretation of caretaking there, because I think so many women were so trained to be caretakers. I think that a lot of times what we're doing then is we're not being able to translate caring to stepping into leadership, which is caring just on a much larger scale, with delegation included, not just doing everything.
Yes, yeah, I so agree. And it's helping women to recognize the fact that they have been leading, and that I one of the funniest things I think is that women say, well, I don't want to make a mistake. You know, if I'm a leader, if I made a mistake, it could be horrible. And my question to them always is, so when you got married and you had kids, did you get a manual with that? Did you know exactly what you were going to do? Have you made mistakes? And the answer always is, well, yeah. It's no different being a leader. You've done it at home, you've done it in your community. It's just taking it into a different arena and being willing to do that. And I think that's also the key, is, are we willing to step in, step up, step out, and own that leadership that we've really been doing for most of our lives?
Oh, I so agree. So agree.
Okay, so I have a question for you. What are some of your favorite ways for people to really have success in their star power or their leadership power? I'm really curious about that.
My favorite ways to have people be in their star power. I think for me, it always comes back to embodiment. How do you, in order to be a star, in order to radiate light, I just saw a wonderful thing on Facebook where it had a picture of the Hanukkah candles with the center candle saying the shamash, which is the center candle, is used to light all the others, and we should all be the shamash. So I think that there's a way in which we can actually take that into the core of our being. It's not just about making choices and what you do, it's how you be. And when we start to talk about how you be, for me, that has to do with where are we placing energy and how are we enhancing and growing our energy. So as you know, I do a lot of the Qigong martial arts, and I also do a lot of performing and theater types of stuff. So that's all very body oriented, and my way of performing or my way of doing Qigong is very, very physical. It's a very physical thing. For me, when we start out with the body, that is an incredible resource right there, not only of how we convey ourselves or how we express ourselves to other people, but also how we get information. How do we tap into that inner knowing, that place that when I don't know what to do next, all of a sudden it comes, what some people call downloads. And that's actually happens on a physiological level, and we have the ability to make a lot of choices about how to do that.
Okay, Vicki, could you define for us what you mean by star power?
When I think of star power, I think about the stars up in the sky. I think about the power of being able to radiate light, to be able to have impact and a ripple effect in your world, in the world around you, in the people, with the people around you, in larger and larger and larger circles, that ripples out into spirals. So when I think of star power, I think about influence, and I think about inspiration. Because I'm just going to rattle on. One of the things, stars come from what's called the heaven realm, or the Shen in the Qigong system and the Taoist system. And what that is that has to do with God, goddess, divinity, inspiration, being able to have the whole picture, being able to have a big perspective. So for me, stars have to do with what am I bringing through.
And that's so very key with leadership, because as you know, the definition of leadership is basically influence. And so the ability to influence the people that you're working with, your followers and whatever, is really, really critical, and inspiring, and then helping them to know what motivates them, and then setting up environments such that they can actually get what motivates them. I think those are really, really key. And I love the fact that you're doing universal and bigger kinds of things. Visionary has that big picture vision of where are we going and how are we going to get there. And I think that's really key. So thank you so much for defining that for us. Vicki, again, we're back to the physical, and I know you deal a lot with energy. So leadership is about impact, and you talked a little bit about that being, in your energy field. So how can we really tap into that and use that to lead other people?
Well, if I go back to some of my roots in the Chinese Taoist system of Qigong, that there's a concept called Wei Qi, and Wei Qi has to do with externalized energy. It's the kind of energy that you respond to. So if somebody walks in the door and you have an immediate, like, I don't think I want to talk to that person, or you have, oh, what are you going to tell me? I'm really interested. You have great energy. What does that mean? The vibes, good vibes.
Yeah.
That's an actual thing. It's not just a concept. It's an actual physiological response. Wei Qi is basically, in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, is related to what protects us against pathogens and allergens and that kind of thing. In Qigong, or in the energy consciousness in this particular field, what it has to do with is I think of it as I am, as opposed to you can't. It's something that radiates out from you. So if we talk about star power, it's almost like you're standing on two stars and you're beginning to glow also. So Wei Qi has to do with this type of energy that's your field, that you can expand and contract at will. It's very protective, but it's also not protective as in keep out. It's protective in the sense of your power starts to, or the energy starts to emanate so powerfully that which is draining or dismissive or takes away respect bounces off the surface. It doesn't matter anymore because you're still emanating out this incredible energy field.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
I've never thought of it quite that way.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, having, I agree with you as far as the, you just sort of get this, ooh, no, or wanting to embrace somebody, knowing when to hug and when to sort of step back. It's the energy that we put forward.
Right.
And how do you, this wasn't something we talked about, but how do you increase that energy that draws people in as opposed to sort of has them sort of step away. How do you do that? Do you have a methodology?
I do. I do. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as rooting through your feet, lifting up through the top of your head, right? Standing tall. I call it straighten up and fly right.
Yes.
It's there's a concept of chi moves in the space between. When you can create a lengthening in your body, then energy can start to flow through it. That creates a ripple effect outside of you. It's basically, you know, energy, the type of energy people who are very visually oriented can see. What do they call auric fields?
Yeah.
I'm more kinesthetic, so some people feel it maybe as heat coming off your body. It's an actual thing. I actually had this incredible situation. I went to, I always wanted to get a Kirlian photograph. Do you know what that is?
Yes, yes.
The auric field. And so I went, and there was a person taking pictures like that. And so I said, okay, I want to do it. I had the picture taken, and it looked good. There were nice colors coming out. It was pretty strong. But then I went away and I did Qigong. I did some practices for about 10 minutes, and I went back and got a second picture. The second picture, it was coming off the page. You couldn't even see the end of the field. So that's when it was a wonderful time to just kind of make it very concrete. This is real. This is something that you can actually see. It's not just indicators that we might show, you know, with non-verbal communication, but that it's actually a field. And so when you lengthen your spine, you can actually start to allow that energy to flow out. And then there's practices that you can do, actually physical practices that you can do that continue to let that expand from a place that's very relaxed and very centered. You're not pushing your energy out, you're allowing it to just be in its natural bigness.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Vicki, you also, and this is sort of looking at the other side, you know, so, you know, we sort of also can hold people away and actually, you know, as you said, set up barriers that will keep people from, you know, sort of entering or, hurting us or whatever it might be, the whole psychic vampire kind of thing. Does that come from any particular root, like self-doubt or something along those lines?
The barriers, are you asking if the barriers come from self-doubt?
Yeah, or that sense of I want to keep people sort of out of my energy field.
I see what you're saying. Well, I think that there are people that we do want to keep out. I mean, there is definitely negativity out there that we may not want to embrace in our center. I think that, I mean, the central, I have written a book and I've created a system that I call the Way of Joy, which is based on a lot of these concepts. But the central part of the book is something I call Boundaries Dissolve Barriers. And in it, what I talk about, and I talk about this a lot because I think it's my key issue, boundaries. How do we do boundaries? That when we have boundaries, it keeps us from either merging, oh, let me help you, okay, I forget that I'm even there because I'm so there for you, or the barriers, keep my space, you can't come in, I need to keep you away, kind of like prickly, like porcupine quills. That when we have boundaries, we don't need those barriers, because I actually believe when we have boundaries is where we actually achieve true intimacy. It's when we're able to self-define and connect with somebody else who's self-defining, that there's a place that we can really click and then enjoy that reciprocity, or that flow back and forth, energetic reciprocity. So I think that when people are setting up barriers, I think there is a place of self-doubt. I think there is something happening there where they don't trust that they can hold their boundaries, and so then they just start to, you know, try to push away because they're being so self-protective. But it's coming from that negative a place as opposed to a positive, so it's not actually as powerful.
Yeah, it almost sounds, when you're talking about coming, you know, having the boundaries but coming together, it almost sounds like Venn diagrams, where you have your world and the other person has a world, but you connect, and there's this space where you are similar, or you resonate together, but yet you still have that separateness.
Yes, yes. So, and that's what makes it delicious, right? Because if we were all the same, how boring. And if we were all totally separate, how lonely. So it's nice to be able to have both and.
Exactly. So I have a question. When I was a kid, my mom told me that I should keep my friends as far away as possible and build really thick walls to protect myself because my friends would always stab me right in the back. So how does this fit with energy and setting boundaries and that kind of thing? And what can we do?
He was training you to have a barrier because he didn't really know how to help you set boundaries. I think that's probably what happened there. So, you know, given whatever her generation was and the ways in which she as a woman felt at risk, she was probably doing the very best she could to keep you protected and safe. The thing is that when you're sort of setting out those walls, then you never actually get to test your mettle, right? You can push up against. You're just there in your little bubble, and there's only so much you can do from there. So I think that basically that isolation that's sort of behind that it makes me sad, and it makes me think about how separated women were from one another back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, I agree. But and you were talking about, you know, it would be really lonely if we never connected and the bubble sort of rotated out there. And it can be a very lonely place when you feel like you're out there alone and you've got other groups that are connecting. It's like, well, why can't I do that? Yeah. So as a leader, how do you draw in people like that?
How do you draw in people who are isolated that way?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think that one of the things that just occurs to me is to just stay again in your Wei Qi and have that invitation and to be able to look through that barrier to the person who's hiding, because that hiding, and it's a thing that's so ironic about that type of hiding, where people are hiding because they think they make them feel safer, is that it's not really safe. When we're hiding, when we're behind those walls, do you feel safe? No, not really. You just feel like you're kind of waiting for the next blow to happen. So
exactly.
So I think that it's really about, for me, you know, with clients or with students or people that I want to connect with, potential clients, I basically try to really hold the vision of who's at the center of that. And if fear wasn't the drive, if fear and anxiety or self-doubt wasn't the main thing, who would that person be and what would they offer? And I really try to focus on that so that they can step out, speak out, and really raise the energy, because they have that ability. It's just hidden.
That's a really powerful thing, is to help the person to understand sort of what they're hiding from, and how, and through building really strong relationships and getting beneath all that bluster that's out there, I think can be really, really a powerful way for leaders to draw in folks who appear to be very reluctant and hidden, and help them to step out from behind that curtain or behind that wall and understand that there is safety out there, and to look at, you know, how can you protect yourself without being behind walls and being lonely and afraid, really, to step out and enjoy relationships with other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it happens in steps, right? It happens in stages. What I do know is you can't push that river.
No, you knock that wall down and it's even scarier than having it up there.
Yeah. The reason people have walls is usually for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Not necessarily keeping them safe, but there's a reason that they're grabbing for what they can.
So Vicki, do you have one great technique that you can share with the audience, since we're visual, something that they could do sitting down that would help them to expand that energetic field and be really as big as they possibly can be as a leader?
Yes, I do. How about that? So there's an exercise that's called Wei Qi, and that's really meant to increase that energy field. And I don't know if I'll probably go outside of frame here, but what you're going to do is you're going to cross one hand over the other. It doesn't matter which wrist is on top. And you're going to just lift your arms way up over your head. Yes. And then circle your arms out to the sides. And just imagine your solar plexus is shining out through your fingers. And then just do it again. It's a simple arm circle. I mean, what could be easier, right? You're going to inhale as you come up, exhale as you extend down. And do that one more time. Inhale. Yes. And exhale. And then you're going to make fists with your thumbs on the insides of those fists. And then you're going to just imagine pushing those hands down into the ground like you're rooting them down. So I suggest doing that 3 to 9 times, just those circles, and then grounding. It's a great thing to do, right? If you're a leader who happens to be also a speaker, it's a great thing to do before you go on stage. I have a program that I call Rockstar Speaking for leaders who want to improve how they tell their stories from the stage, because so many speakers are still a little bit in their talking head thing. And so I'm really trying to get people to a new level of speaking. And it's one of the things that we practice all the time is just to let that, you know, what the mission is, what the reason is for you to do it, let that surround you and then ground it. So if you're somebody who speaks from the stage, you can use it. Also, if you're just about to meet with somebody who intimidates you, or you feel like, oh, they don't quite get it, to do that first so that you can remember who you are and then walk in that, in the center of that energy field.
And having seen the results of your Rockstar program, I am very impressed with taking someone who was very fun, but was sort of reserved and in her head, and really creating a speech that was just phenomenal. I commend you greatly on your ability to move people from their head to their heart and then into their body as a whole to craft that story. It was just amazing.
Oh, thank you, Linda. That means a lot to me. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it was great. I wish I could have stayed for the whole day, but the couple of people I saw were fabulous.
It's a huge variety because every woman is so different. And that's one of the things I love about my speakers is that you're never going to see, oh, she's using this technique or that technique.
Yeah.
They're all going to be in their own story. It's pretty fun. Thank you.
Well, Vicki, thank you so very much for being open and giving us some really wonderful ideas. And thank you for the exercise. I remember that, and I've been doing it. Now I know to do it as whenever I do my social media, that I will also do the Wei Qi. Since we're supposed to do it 9 times a day, right? So I know you have
5 minutes, so it's really less than 5 minutes. It's super easy.
Absolutely. And Vicki, you have a free gift for our audience, and I would be delighted if you tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. When I was sort of thinking about you and leaders, and I was thinking about what would be most beneficial that I could give quickly, I decided to make a 3-part video series. Each video is 3 minutes or less. So I specialize. I have a whole system I call pivot, pivot to positive transformation in a New York minute. So everything in a New York minute, right? It's all short because I know most people are very busy. We don't have a lot of extra time. So I created these videos that are basically foundational principles, including some of what I talked about here today, foundational principles of things that you can do before you walk into a situation where you feel like you might be pulling back and you know you need to move forward, where you can really allow yourself to sit in that Wei Qi and expand it. So I took some foundational ideas that I use myself every day as a way to ground people and keep them connected to that inspiration, and at the same time be able to step into their leadership with full belief, self-belief.
That's fabulous. And Vicki has this on her website at http:// all one word, .com/energy/free gift/ and that will also be on the website for you as well. So thank you, Vicki, so much. And for those of you who would like to step in, step up, and step out in your leadership, discovering whether you are a leader, I have the You Are Here on the Journey, which is my free assessment, which is at http:// dreamwithlynda.com/herding-cats-2/. So Vicki, it's been delightful having you on the program, and I thank you so very much for sharing with us all of your wisdom. And by the way, weren't you inducted into a Hall of Fame? I just want to throw that out.
I was. There's a Hall of Fame for women martial arts instructors, and I was inducted because I have over 40 years of experience teaching women some of these basic practices, basic and complex practices. So.
And you started when you were 2, right?
No.
Oh, well, thank you again for being on the show, and I hope you have a very blessed holiday. And just a reminder that Leadership Stars is broadcast on YouTube, usually the second Tuesday of the month, although we have a special edition later on this month with Mary Knipple. And so I look forward to seeing you then, and thank you for joining us. And remember, be courageous and dare to lead.